Disease Control implemented the Title 42 as a mitigation effort in response to COVID-19. This is a 1944 public health law that was created to prevent the spread of communicable diseases. Tomorrow, the Biden administration has announced that Title 42 will be lifted, which means there's a likelihood of an increase in the influx of asylum seekers coming into the country. Now, this is an issue that's very dear and near to my heart. Many of you may know that in 2018, when we started getting street releases at a higher number, at that time, I was an advocate and very engaged in the process of the creation of the Rapid Response Network. What I want to say to you is that it's a new day in the County of San Diego. It's a new day in the ability for us to work closely with the Biden administration. A couple of things that are important. You all know that the Rapid Response Network was created. There's a clear coordination in the county with local stakeholders and our communities to ensure that everyone knows what is available and how we work together. So one thing to mention that is really important that's very different this time around is that the Biden administration will be opening regional processing centers across the Western Hemisphere, including Colombia and Guatemala. What this means and why this is so important is because it's really intended to reduce the number of people that are coming into our borders. Why is that important? Because people will have an opportunity to be processed in these centers, and they're going to be able to get to their final destinations directly from there. There is a lot of encouragement from the CBP for one application and appointment slots that they're taking care of. And then there's also been investments that have been made by the federal government that we've been able to partner up with, and that includes $35 million for Catholic Charities to collaborate with other organizations in San Diego County. As you know, JFS has been a true partner in this process, as well as UCSD. Just right now, I had a briefing with many of representatives from the 18 cities to just give them an update about where we are and what the county is doing. We also yesterday had a meeting with key stakeholders, including our NGOs, business partners, and other agencies in preparation for tomorrow's Title 42. And for me, this is extremely important to emphasize that no one entity is going to be able to address this humanitarian crisis, and that it's really important for all of us to really work together. A couple of things that the county is doing is that we're working closely, like I said, with the federal government. We're actually going to be, as a region, sending a letter to the Biden administration to make sure that as we're seeking additional resources for asylum seekers, that we need additional resources from the federal government. We are looking at long-term solutions. As you know, last year I introduced a board letter so that we can actually have a center. We continue to advocate to the state government and the federal government so that we can have additional resources for that, because we do need to have long-term planning. And then in addition to that, we are communicating and ensuring that our local agencies understand where things are. So, making sure that MTS and the airport authority, are able to connect with us and have the information that they need. The other piece that's important to mention is that county medical authorities are working with the federal and state authorities to monitor the capacity to adequately provide the medical screenings that migrants need to have. And so it's extremely important for us that everyone that is here is safe and is healthy. And so asylum seekers will be able to be provided the medical screenings that they need. In addition to that, we are making sure that we, as a county, we have an assistant state incident management team that's identifying additional shelter partners. We have a contingency plan. The group really what it does is explores different options for operations. And then we are also have been hosting listening sessions throughout the county with participating groups about what the next steps are. So what we need is we need to be able to increase the migrant shelter capacity. That's our message to the federal government. We also need to, we understand that the current coordination efforts around our stakeholders and organizations must continue, but we need the support of the federal government. And then there were 3 work groups that were created to make sure that we were prepared for any street releases. I will say that the federal government has been a good partner in this process in ensuring that those street releases are minimized. But for us, is making sure that there's centralized intake coordinators, like I said, emergency shelters and also the medical screenings that are available. One of the things that I wanted to share with everyone is that there is a forum such as this one that has been shared with our nonprofit groups and stakeholders, which is information, and it also has a link for folks, and it's up on our website as well. It has a link for folks so that they know that if they want to volunteer, you know, in the past we've had a lot of, you know, San Diegans are good people, and many of them want to support our asylum seekers, and so in the past they have asked and they call the county, and so what we're sharing with you is a volunteer link. We'll make sure that you all get it so that if folks want to volunteer or provide resources, etc., they know exactly where to go, so people can get the assistance that they have. In the meantime, we're going to continue to respond to any inquiries that any newcomers have. 211 continues to be available for them if they have any questions. And again, it's important for us to, it's important for me as the chair of the Board of Supervisors to remind folks that we are a welcoming county, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that everyone that is here is treated with respect and with dignity. I can answer any questions.
Chairwoman, yesterday we were at the border and west of the San Francisco port of entry. We see Border Patrol agents loading up the vans, hundreds of them. Where are they going? Many are wondering, our county residents are wondering, are they staying there in the Tijuana side for processing, or are they coming into the county? And where are these shelters? Where are they being processed?
So most of the processing happens through the CBP, and so they have the intake and the response that they have to do, and so that's how it's taking place. What's important to note is that, remember, the majority of the folks, the majority of the asylum seekers have a destination already, and so it's the processing that has to take place so they can reach their final destination intact. I just remembered that I forgot to do this in Spanish, so if you give me a minute, I'll go ahead and do that. Es importante mencionar que en el 2020 en Estados Unidos se implementó el título 42, en donde era una respuesta para poder manejar la salud pública de COVID y el impacto que tenía con los inmigrantes, ¿verdad? Entonces, empezando mañana, el título 42 ya no va a estar en existencia. Entonces, estamos preparándonos como condado en caso de que haya una gran cantidad de inmigrantes de refugiados, ¿verdad?, que están pidiendo asilo político o asilo, perdón, que vengan. Es importante mencionar que la administración de Biden ha creado unos centros regionales para procesar a las personas en Guatemala y en Colombia. ¿Por qué es importante eso? Porque una vez se crean esos centros, se les da la oportunidad a las personas de procesar para que puedan llegar a su destino final sin tener que venir a la frontera. Es importante para nosotros porque lo que queremos es que el proceso sea uno que sea rápido y que sea con dignidad. Así que estamos recomendando que las personas que puedan llegar a estos centros, que lleguen a esos centros. Es importante también mencionar que se han invertido más de 35 millones en Catholic Charities, que es la organización fiscal que está manejando este tema de los asylum seekers. Y entonces es muy importante para todos que les mencionemos, ¿verdad?, que ellos están trabajando en colaboración con el Jewish Family Services, con UCSD, para continuar ese trabajo. Yo acabo de tener una reunión con los diferentes representantes de los alcaldes y los regidores del condado de San Diego para identificar qué oportunidades hay para nosotros trabajar juntos. Para mí es muy importante este tema, no solamente como la primer migrante, pero también porque como región sabemos que es muy importante que como condado nosotros hemos decidido que somos un condado en el cual vamos a darle la bienvenida a las personas y los vamos a tratar con dignidad y con respeto. Entonces es muy importante que hagamos eso. El condado de San Diego está comprometido a seguir haciendo su trabajo, de que las personas estén seguras, que tengan el acceso a los procesos médicos, pero es importante enfatizar que ocupamos la ayuda del gobierno federal. Necesitamos los recursos del gobierno federal porque es importante para que podamos manejar los casos de cada persona, para que podamos tener la capacidad en donde puedan las personas estar mientras que llegan a su destino final, y más que nada pues para poder asegurarnos que todo mundo, que todas las personas que vengan, que tengan el acceso a la salud que necesitan. Así que vamos a seguir coordinando las diferentes oportunidades con las organizaciones no lucrativas. Vamos a seguir abogando con el gobierno federal y estatal para que estos recursos sean accesibles a nuestras comunidades, Y como comentaba, este documento está en inglés y en español, se lo vamos a presentar, y en realidad lo que dice es especialmente cómo las personas pueden usar ya sea el aeropuerto o Greyhound, ¿verdad? Los camiones para llegar a su destino final, y también qué tipo de operaciones hay en donde pueden ellos estar. Hay muchas personas que nos preguntan, ¿verdad?, dónde pueden ser voluntarios, y tenemos en JFS hay una oportunidad de ser voluntario para aquellas personas que quieran ser voluntarias. Sabemos que los sandiaguinos son personas que en realidad están muy interesadas en ayudar al prójimo y saben que esa es una situación humanitaria. Así que me da gusto poderles comentar que no es el mismo condado que era antes. Somos un condado que estamos más que nada enfocados en que todas las personas que estén aquí se traten con dignidad y con respeto. Can you, I can't hear you.
How concerned are you that we will see street releases after Title 42 ends? And is there a dollar amount you're asking for from the federal government to increase migrant shelter beds?
Well, I think at this point, we have had conversations with CBP. We're going to continue to monitor it. What we are going to do is we're going to make sure that we have any, whatever resources we have available, which is what Catholic Charities and JFS is doing. They are concerned about being at maximum capacity, but it's tough for me to tell you about hypotheticals. I think what all of us are really emphasizing is to ensure that people understand that there's these new regional centers in Guatemala and El Salvador that people can use, and hopefully that will make sure that people can just get to their final destination without having to come to our border.
Supervisor, just as of Monday, I mean, those regional centers are great, but there's already thousands, just waiting to come in that have been waiting for years. And so I did speak with Supervisor Anderson and also, from the Catholic Charities, and both of them, they really don't know how many people are going to be released a day. They would love to work with Customs and Border just so that they can control the flow, so that they don't get overwhelmed and can process people, in a timely manner, and so that there aren't street releases. But there's no communication with anybody about that, and they were also saying that something like a convention center or where a larger place can be set up so that a lot of people can be in one place with resources. And they were Supervisor Anderson was also worried about security for the migrants and also the communities, but he said if there are street releases, I haven't been able to find out what's going to be done. Are you guys going to have more patrols on the street, helping people, guiding them? Because if they don't know the language, they don't know the area, and they're on their own, they're really vulnerable to people preying on them.
Yeah, so, like I said, I remember specifically where I was on 2018 when the first majority of the street releases started to happen in this region. I remember being part of the rapid response network that we created, within all these organizations to do this work. We, as a county, right, introduced a board letter last year so that we can start thinking about what it's going to look like long-term, including having a shelter allocation. And I'm hoping that Supervisor Anderson will help me in my budget request to ensure that we allocate additional resources, because this has to be a priority. And so our county staff is ensuring that all of our supervisors are briefed. And I want to say that there is communication with the Biden administration. There is communication with CBP. And what I will say is that at one point there was a lot of street releases. We worked very closely with the Biden administration and Julie Rodriguez from the political office there, the public affairs office, and then also here locally. And they have worked really closely with us to make sure that it doesn't happen. I can't promise what's going to happen depending on the numbers, but I can tell you that we are going to do everything that we can so we make sure that we coordinate, and I will make sure to follow up with Supervisor Anderson so he gets a lot of the information, because we actually, all of us voted together. Yes, sir.
So do you know the amount of people then that are going to be allowed?
I think I just mentioned to the gentleman that we don't know where we are right now with the numbers and what's going to happen. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what can or cannot happen. And so I think what I'm trying to share with you is that as a county, we're gonna do everything that we can to coordinate and working closely with the federal government so that they understand the impact that street releases have on all of us. So we're continuing to work with MTS and the airport, and so everybody else, so that they understand exactly what's happening.
One
Yes.
last-
One last question.
You say you don't know how many are coming, but how many can we handle?
I think, the JFS Catholic Charities has done an excellent job in managing the influx of immigrants as they come in. We've been able to respond. I think all I can share with you at this time is that we have a coordinated effort to ensure that everybody understands. It's no longer who do we call, but instead what we have is a group of stakeholders that have been meeting continuously. We have 3 work groups that were created, North, South, and Central. Everybody's communicating, all of the nonprofits. I can tell you, for instance, 3 months ago, we had street releases that nobody knew about, and then all of a sudden, organizations like Casa Familiar, South Bay Community Services, immediately were able to address the issue and were able to bring people together and identify what those beds were. And so, we have to, what I want to make sure we emphasize is that this is a different county than it was before, right? We as a county understand that this is a federal issue, and we need to make sure that there's a response from the federal government. We are working on legislation to ensure that FEMA funding can come down to our communities, that we are doing everything that we can. But what's really important right now is that we share with folks that there is a place that if you see, right, let's say you are at a bus stop and there's someone there that you think doesn't know where to go, they can call 211. You can call 211. Most folks have a phone when they get here. And so what we want to do is do everything that we can so that we can make sure that everybody is here treated with dignity, respect, and everybody is safe, not only our asylum seekers, but our communities as well. And so I really appreciate you coming here. I know that there's still a lot of more questions, but I wanted to make sure that you know that the County of San Diego continues to be a true partner with our local cities, our local stakeholders, because we need to work on this together, because not one entity can do this alone. So I want to appreciate your time and look forward to answering any more questions in the future. Okay, thank you.
It's already
You can reach out to
tomorrow,
me.
though,
Yeah.
and you say you don't know if FEMA's gonna give you more money or a place so that you can open up a larger location. And
We are working on it. We're working on it.
I know, but it's already tomorrow working on it and you still don't know. That's concerning.
The
Yeah.
state currently has it Crown Plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah, the supervisor.
No, I know, I understand.
Two shelters, where are they gonna be at, and the funding?
You have to-
What shelters?
Police announced
Well,
yesterday
I can
that-
follow up.
You can follow up with them.
I can follow
You know
up.
what, you guys started 10 minutes late and now you're cutting us off when we have questions. I don't think that's very fair.
Oh, it's okay. We're only going to have a little bit of time, so.
You have to get the supervisor to the next, yeah.
Thank
I
you.
can follow up.
Roberto,
Yeah.
what the answer to the shelters that were
Let me
mentioned, the
take-
supervisor
yeah,
doesn't mention